Hello, this is Joe Dexter, ace reporter. I have some journalistic news for you. And no, I am not repeating out of a news story. I am just doing research, and I am going to be interviewing AI for this one. And yes, I know I should be having guests such as people who are on strike or people in business and everything else, and I'm gonna try to do my best getting the information. But here's what I know. Employers don't like the conditions. They're not necessarily crazy about cranes. Who could blame them? Cranes are dangerous. Like safe working conditions, better wages, and much more. Also, both of them can agree on new technology, such as the AI movement and much, much more, robotics, and some may fear that their jobs will be replaced by robot, and it's been the case for a very long time. For anyone knows, check out Joseph Evaldi, my book, Joseph Evaldi, with a book called AI and Mental. Hold on one second. The book is called How to Mentally Cope with Artificial Intelligence by Joseph Evaldi. He asked questions. Let me get him on the show. You can get myself on the show. Character. I am. How about you? How about me as Joe Baxter? I don't know. It gets confusing at times. I know if I'm Joe Baxter or if Joe Baxter is me. Who knows by now? But in the book, How to Mentally Cope with Artificial Intelligence, I discuss about how we had to cope through every technological state with improvements, and how there was fear of people losing their jobs, and there was fears of people who weren't able to adapt. Excuse me, I'm coughing up a lung here. Ironically, I'm just going to ask a question, and this is from the book, and I'm going to date back to asking a question on the Industrial Revolution. And this is the earlier days, I asked on the Industrial Revolution, ChatGPT, and they said, in the book it was said by Joseph Evaldi, the Industrial Revolution was a period of global transition of human economy towards more widespread, efficient, and stable manufacturing processes that succeeded the agricultural revolution starting from Great Britain, continental Europe, and the United States that occurred during the period around 1760 to about 1820 to 1840. This transition included going from hand production methods to machines, new chemical manufacturing, and iron production processes. The increasing use of water power and steam power, the development of machine tools, the rise of mechanized factory system. The textile industry was the first to use modern production methods. The textiles became the dominant industry in terms of employment, value of output, and capital invested. Well, I mentioned a lot about that, but I want to mention a question. This is what I ask. However, it's true that the colonists were making money and Great Britain wanted their cut. The British government imposed a series of taxes on the colonies, including the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, to name a few. These taxes were intended to raise revenue for British government to help pay for the costs of the French and Indian War. However, the colonists felt that these taxes were unfair and that they were being taxed without representation in the British Parliament. This led to widespread protests and boycotts of British goods, which eventually culminated in the American Revolution. And then I asked, thank you, but that only raises more questions. How does the unfair taxes of why the American fought for their independence compare to what is going on now with taxes and high inflation in 2024 version of America? Research. The American Revolution was fought over the issue of taxation without representation. The colonists felt that they were unfairly taxed by the British government without having any say in how those taxes were being used. This led to widespread protests and boycotts of British goods, which eventually culminated in the American Revolution. In contrast, the current situation in 2024 America is different. While taxes and inflation are still issues that affect many people, the government is democratically elected, represents the interests of the people. The government uses tax revenue to fund services such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, among others. Inflation, on the other hand, is a measure of rate at which prices for goods and services are increased over time, while high inflation can cause for concern. It is not directly related to taxation or representation. I hope this helps. Well, I just gave the backbone for what could be an in-depth conversation into this podcast. And with that being said, high inflation is an issue. And when there's high inflation, people want higher rates and higher values until there's a deflationary process, and that's when everything goes down and more affordable. But you have high inflation when you have rates. What's truly the issue? And in these line of podcasts, I will discuss about what's going on and why they want to go on strike. It's going to be a series of questions. Why the strike? Why the for better pay, for better conditions, for better technology. It could be many of those, but there's always a nugget. As I remember, when I was reporting on the Rutgers strike, somebody was telling me that they wanted a piece of land that wasn't even used. There's a nugget. There's always something. There's always a common ground where people are working towards something. They may have their differences, but there is always a common ground. This is part one of some podcasts. Since I don't have anyone from the strike to talk about this topic with me, and I don't even have the CEOs, the head people in charge. All I know is there's going to be a strike that may last for days. It could be weeks. It could be months. But all I know is both parties want this resolved, so that's a good thing. But what are some common ground? That's what we will be discussing next podcast. Check out the news with Joe Vexter. I'm Joe Vexter, and we are on Spreaker, and also we are on Patreon as well too. On the Joseph Evaldi Network Nexus. Check us out.